contractors with the capacity to do some of the work, and what kind of tools might help with that, particularly some loan capabilities so that people don't have to put up as much money up front to be able to do the work, and that some nonprofits already have that, like LISC in particular.
Okay. Sir?
I don't know if I learned anything. I had the pleasure of meeting two good black men, and I think that's always positive to meet people who are trying to do something.
What made them so good?
They're very accomplished, very well spoken, and I'm excited for the future.
Okay.
I spoke to Hank, and he's doing a lot, and I learned about some things that are going on in the city that are interesting that I wasn't aware of before. So just helped me get more involved.
Okay. And
Well, I was talking a lot about, I became the manager of a homeless youth shelter back in April, and I was talking a lot about some resources in the community and putting some art to come to the shelter. So.
how many people knew there was a homeless shelter in the neighborhood?
Well, it's not in the neighborhood, but it's the only one on the south side for young people under age 25.
How many people knew that?
Wow.
Where is it?
Yeah. It's at 7320 South Yale South Wing, and it opens at 8 p.m. every night, and every night's a new night. You can line up, get a bed, get something to eat.
What's the name of it?
Ujima Village. It's been there for a while, but we had a huge fire a couple of years ago, but we've been back open now for a year.
Sir? Top match. Watch.
I learned.
Yeah, I'm calling everybody until 1 o'clock.
I learned that there's an organization on the South Shore that aims at bringing Wi-Fi facilities to the neighborhood and making it more accessible for community residents.
Okay.
I learned that from the gentleman right here.
Okay. Al, would you like to talk about that in 30 seconds?
Absolutely. So we are now doing something in collaboration with Shy Hack Night, and that's a weekly.
You might want to stand.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Shy Hack Night. So I'm running a breakout group at Shy Hack Night with Steve Ediger, who's the treasurer of Shy Hack Night, and we are devising a neighborhood platform internet opportunity that will bring neighborhoods closer together using skills and abilities in the neighborhood to share with people in the neighborhood. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Sir?
I was kind of late, so the only person I really talked to was Bruce.
Okay. What'd you learn from Bruce? A lot.
Everything.
Chicago's unofficial mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm
He was teaching me. He's being modest.
Okay, so what did you learn?
I learned that one of our Congress leaders, the wonderful Congresswoman Maxine Waters, is really making sure that some resources get targeted into our opportunity zones. Lennox, who was speaking, is one of the foremost community-sensitive developers that we have in our community for a number of years, and he and I have been discussing how opportunity zones could be more impactful, and he gave me some firsthand information about what the Congress is doing to put those dollars in place so that developers like him can bring the quality of housing on in our communities that will drive economic prosperity.
That's good.
Who's that? Vicky?
This day I knew I was supposed to learn something, but I did meet trying to judge, but I did meet somebody.
So I just arrived as well. Didn't really talk to anyone, but I realized how beautiful this building is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Young lady in the back. Next to. Hi.
They stole my answers. I've been doing and networking, so all of the good people in the room.
Okay.
Hi. So I'm Latricia Payne. I'm running for judge.
Hey.
And I met 4 constituents riding in this little area. And hopefully there are more of you that live south of 75th Street. But I'm also almost a South Shore resident. I live on the south side of 79th Street, so I'm South Chicago. But we're so close. We all have
We're family.
It's a lane. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, we didn't mingle with anybody. I've been moving around, but I'm with the organization Illinois Humanities. So we have an office here in the Stony Island Arts Bank. But we do work kind of all over Illinois, and we try to support community dialogues.
They did a great people-powered publishing conference last week.
Oh, that's right. Yes, let's do it. Columbia College. Thank you.
Yes, yes.
I'm Elliot. I work with Paul and also partner with Val. I was talking with Ann about the youth homeless shelter in the South Shore. I was also telling her, among other things, about a great Southside-based artist, B.R.L. Ali, who's been doing some really good work over at Lux Galleries on 47th. So keep that name in your mind. He's going to be big, and hopefully he might provide a little bit of art or something like that for the homeless shelter. Yeah.
Okay, so it's 1 o'clock. So, as I said, my name is Val Free. I'm the lead steward of the Neighborhood Network Alliance. Some people may know us as the Southeast Side Block Club Alliance. However, we are a block club organization that believes that we can take block clubs to the next level by tapping into the human capital on the block. Today we're covering economic development because there are a lot of people in the community who might not be interested in a block club, but they are interested in economic development. And so how do we tap into the economic brain and the resources on the block so that we can bring that information, those resources back into the neighborhood is what we are here today for. And if you did get one of our brochures, you'll see that we also are looking for people who are interested in housing, economic development, health and wellness, arts and culture. But every month since the month of June, we have launched a different network of people, a network where people can get involved, community members can get involved, where they may say, well, the block club is nice, but that's not my thing. Or the block club is nice, but it's basically the elder group. Or the block club is nice and I don't want to go to a CAPS meeting. But if you're talking about economic development, or you're talking about housing, you're talking about arts and culture, I can be a part of that. Not to say that they're not glad that the block club is there, because it does have a sense of safety that a lot of blocks don't have. However, how do we get that person that says, here's my fee and you all go have a good day involved? That's what we're here for today. But how we do that is we have to partner with the nonprofits and institutions in our community so that they can help bring resources to the community. And so it's also a bottom-up effect. It's not, oh, we are the gods of the neighborhoods and we're going to tell you all what to do. It's a partnership, and that's our aim, is to make it a partnership. So they hear from the community members and the community members hear from them, and then they come out with a plan or resource sharing or whatever the case may be, and how we resolve issues and create a better life or way of life in South Shore. So while I'm saying that, I would like to go over what today is going to be. The University of Chicago, we've partnered with the University of Chicago. I sit on the housing committee for the University of Chicago, but they also have economic development as well. And since this was Economic Development Month, I thought that this would be a good opportunity for them to come out. For the last few months, they've engaged community leaders and stakeholders around what they're hearing in their areas, in their neighborhoods around the University of Chicago. What are some of the myths? What are some of the things they could change? What are some of the things that they could do? How they can make their community and neighborhood relationships a lot better and change the way things have been going. So today we're going to bring up Wendy Williams, who's the head of the civic engagement, to talk about some of the things that came out of those meetings and where they're going now. And then we're going to turn it over to Tanya Trice, which is the executive director of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. And after that, we're going to have dialogue about how do you see yourself fitting in to an economic development network in South Shore. Okay? So as I said, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy and her team.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon.
Well, Val, thank you very much much for the promotion. I appreciate it. Actually, I am not the head of civic engagement. Our vice president is Derek Douglas.
Oh, I'm
He's
sorry.
the vice president of civic engagement. I'm the executive director of community partnerships, and I'm really excited to be with you all today for the Office of Civic Engagement. The University of Chicago has an office.
No, I was thinking about the accelerator.
So that's one of the programs I'll get into. So I've been in the Office of Civic Engagement now for about 2 years. Prior to joining the Office of Civic Engagement, I was the executive director of the Southeast Chicago Commission, which serves basically the same footprint as the 9 neighborhoods that I'll speak to. And prior to that, I worked for the City of Chicago in the Department of Planning. I was the assistant commissioner for the South region. So a lot of the development that happens in the greater Grand Crossing and South Shore, I was able to work on many years ago. So not new to South Shore, very happy to be here. So the University of Chicago is a huge entity. We are definitely the largest employer on the South Side, and we are what many people call the main stakeholder economic engine on the South Side. So today I'm going to share with you the many programs and initiatives in the Office of Civic Engagement. So as the Executive Director of Community Partnerships, I am fortunate to work with the many program directors that lead this work. I don't lead this work, I'm just going to share this work with you. So the Office of Civic Engagement is part of the University of Chicago. And basically, civic engagement to the University of Chicago quite simply means being a good citizen of the City of Chicago and being a good neighbor on the South Side. So the Office of Civic Engagement connects the city to the university in many ways. We lead programs that directly serve thousands of Chicagoans each year, and through the programs we run, we strengthen community organizations and small businesses, improve access to education, and help residents secure jobs. We have a 9-neighborhood footprint, which includes Douglas, Oakland, Grand Boulevard, Kenwood, Hyde Park, Washington Park, and Woodlawn, Greater Grand Crossing, and South Shore. Our core areas of work include strengthening local communities, supporting local students in schools, expanding economic opportunity, and connecting to policymakers. The slide before that said strengthening local communities, and there are many different ways that we do that. One example is through our Community Programs Accelerator. Thriving neighborhoods have something in common no matter where they're located. Strong community-based organizations that have resources and the ability to execute on the vision they have for their communities. In an effort to support Southside civic infrastructure that advances the quality of life in local neighborhoods, the Office of Civic Engagement launched the Community Programs Accelerator in 2014. The Community Programs Accelerator provides customized capacity building support to nonprofits that serve our focus area on the South Side. And through teams of University of Chicago faculty and students and partners, the Accelerator meets Southside nonprofits where they are, providing direct support to each. Since 2014, we have served more than 120 local nonprofits. Many organizations apply to be part of the Community Programs Accelerator. We accept applications, and we also provide many workshops. So if you're interested in taking a workshop, you can go to the Community Programs Accelerator website and look to see if there's a workshop that's available for you. If you run a nonprofit organization, you can also apply to be part of the Community Programs Accelerator. We have finished accepting applications for the next round, and so we're in the process now of reviewing the applications and interviewing those that did apply. And in the new year, we will be announcing the next cohort. Another example of how we strengthen local communities is through our civic leadership initiatives. The Office of Civic Engagement implements and promotes the work of civic leadership education throughout the university. And in 2015, we created the Civic Leadership Academy, which is an interdisciplinary leadership development program for for emerging high potential leaders in nonprofit organizations in local government and Cook County. It's a leadership program that's similar to Leadership Greater Chicago or the Latino Public Policies Multi-Leadership Academy. You apply, you're accepted, you go through 9 months at the Harris School of great classes and networking. There are field trips, and then they also take a trip, like an international trip. So if this is a leadership program that you think you might be interested in, definitely see me after the presentation. In the fall of 2019, we piloted a new innovative leadership retreat in partnership with Court Theater that offers a new way to leverage the university's resources to benefit people working in the Civic Center. The program gave 22 established and emerging civic actors, people working to make difference in their community's quality of life, the opportunity to become literal actors, creating scenes on stage and engaging in dialogue about the roles they play as leaders. So for 4 days, the individuals went on a retreat at the Green Line Performing Arts Center. They worked with the head of the Court Theater, and they went through a number of different plays and talked about how to bring your, how when you are a community leader, a lot of it is acting, and which characters to bring down stage and when. So the feedback that we've got on this trial, this trial program has been extremely positive, and I think we will definitely be doing it again in the future. We also strengthen local communities via our University Community Service Center. The Community Service Center gives college students the opportunity to learn from and contribute to organizations making meaningful impact in the local communities. So this is a student-focused initiative. Annually, more than 2,000 students participate in its programs and events in partnership with more than 250 organizations throughout the 55 of the 77 community areas. Now, supporting local students in schools. The Neighborhood Schools program is probably our most popular program. It was created more than 40 years ago to build pathways of engagement between the university and local schools. It has grown over the years to partner with 50 public schools and education-focused nonprofits on the South Side. The Neighborhood Schools program staff helps to oversee the Maroon Tutor Match, which is a student-led, affordable tutoring program that connects university student tutors with local K-12 students for one-on-one tutoring and tutoring after school on the weekends. This program is available to anybody. There are scholarships available if you are not able to afford participating in the Maroon Tutor Match, so it is definitely open to all. Last year, 225 tutors worked with more than 400 students, 3/4 of whom live within the 9 neighborhoods that I spoke to earlier. We also support local students at schools through our Collegiate Scholars Program. This program was launched 15 years ago after the University of Chicago Consortium on School Research found that high-performing CPS students were underreaching in their college application choices. This program is open to students across the city. During the school year, students participate in activities geared toward college readiness, leadership development, cultural awareness, and civic engagement. More than 90% of the program alumni have earned bachelor's degrees within 6 years, and it is open to all. One of the best kept secrets probably in our neighborhood schools program suite is through the Office of Special Programs. It's our college prep program. So for more than 50 years, the Office of Special Programs College Prep has been employing low-income, high-potential Chicago high school students gain admission to, pay for, and thrive in college. We were one of the first universities in the nation to partner with the federal government on a suite of programs, including Upward Bound, that help students from disadvantaged backgrounds achieve academic success. Yeah. Sorry. Of course, you can't find it. Hopefully it'll stop. Only me, right?
love hearing people's ringtones.
All right. Hopefully they will not call back. All right, next slide. Engaging opportunities, engaging communities. That's basically what we're here doing today. Through the Student Engagement Center, our staff helps University of Chicago students pursue their own civic engagement initiatives. For example, there was a student who skated with Team USA, and the student wanted to offer free ice skating programs to children on the South Side. Through the Student Engagement Center, we were able to help that student do that on the Midway Plaisance. So still, even though the student has graduated on, we do offer free ice skating lessons to students. All you have to do is go to the Midway Plaisance and apply, or go through CPS. The rink, it has ice on it now. They've already opened, and the ice skating lessons will start in December. We also offer community engagement workshops, for example, and many events. For example, this past week we had a great talk at the social service building. We have a partnership with the City Club of Chicago, so we hosted a conversation called A Moral Imperative, Chicago Public Schools Education. We had a number of people come out for that. It was free. About 2 weeks ago at Rockefeller Chapel, we showed the movie Amazing Grace and had a talk back with the community. We had about 600 people attend that. On December 7th, we're going to host Hyde Park Holidays on 53rd Street, so it'll be a day of free programming for the community. Children will be able to see the movie Frozen for free twice. There'll be characters, just really getting into the holiday spirit. So we do a number of community engagement workshops. And then we also connect to policymakers.
You had it.
We also connect to policymakers, so through our office, we are the liaison to state and federal legislators, as well as working with our local aldermanic officials. And so I'd like to bring up Alyssa Berman-Cutler to talk about what you really want to hear about, which is our economic development program.
Thanks, yeah, as Wendy mentioned. As Wendy mentioned, there's all of these different kinds of programs in our office and lots of different people who lead them, and we're happy to introduce you to all of them. Because Val asked us to speak specifically about economic development today, I'm here and happy to talk to you afterwards as well. But I run what we call our U Chicago Local program, which is our efforts to leverage our power as the largest employer on the South Side, as a purchaser of goods and services, and as a real estate developer for a positive economic impact on the community. And so, as Val mentioned, we have been convening leaders from the community since last spring to sort of say, here's what we've been doing so far, which includes the fact that we spend about $25 million a year in the 9 neighborhoods that Wendy mentioned. And we hire about 30% of our workforce from local communities. And we run an employer-assisted housing program where we're helping employees purchase homes in the local communities. But the question was really, what can we do better, what can we do differently, and what can we do in partnership with you? And so out of that came some bigger goals and some initiatives around partnership. So we've had pretty strong minority construction goals for a couple of years now. We're at 35% minority and 6% women in our construction fields and as goals, and we're getting there now. With new projects, we are fulfilling those goals and are sort of catching up with our old projects. But that's something where we feel pretty solid. And as you know, construction is a field where that's something that's sort of been in the mix culturally for a while. But we've also now challenged ourselves to put local and minority goals around all of our purchasing. And so we are committing to doubling that local purchasing in the next 5 years to about $50 million. And the only way to do that is both to have goals at all of the different department levels, as well as to work with the chambers of commerce like Tanya and the other ones around us to be able to support the businesses in our community. We do that through entities like the Polski Exchange, which if you've never been is a business incubator and co-working space on 53rd Street that's open to the community. We have memberships available at $50 a month that get you access to all of that co-working, meeting room, mentoring appointments, and our fabrication lab to do prototyping for your business. In addition, though, there's tons of workshops that are just open. So if you don't need co-working, you don't need all those other supports, but there's a marketing class that you'd really like to take, that is absolutely available. So that's been a really nice way to help learn about businesses that are in our neighborhood and provide that capacity building support so that we can continue to contract with them. We also provide student support through consulting engagements funded by Chase through their Ascend program that again helps people grow. On the hiring side, we again are setting these goals. We're also, we actually have a pretty good policy already around hiring folks with criminal backgrounds, but it's not something that we've been overt or talked about. And so that makes people feel like they can't apply, and our workforce agency partners feel like they can't send us people with backgrounds. So what we've learned, and we learned that really through these conversations, because our HR people said, what are you talking about? Anybody can apply. We look at people on a case-by-case basis. And what we learned was that's not well communicated in the community. So we are adding fair chance language in all of our jobs posting and on our website. And in addition, building stronger relationships with our local workforce agencies, and especially with those that work with folks with criminal backgrounds so that we can do a better job of connecting to that part of our community. Finally, on the real estate development side, we are adopting a set of principles around how we engage with development, particularly that's just outside of our campus. It's more of our commercial development as opposed to kind of the renovations on our historic campus. How we will engage with existing community plans, how we will go out to the community and be much more transparent than we have in the past about our development work, and how we will keep committing to these construction goals and other kinds of goals that we talked about. So it's really about getting everyone at the university to be committed to this and have the same mission-driven attitude that our office has had for a long time. And then on the employer-assisted housing side, strengthening that program for our own employees, but also getting to the point where it can be a model for other smaller institutions on the south side, and perhaps ultimately coalitions of smaller businesses like chambers. Because we know that if it only touches our employees, that has a slightly limited reach. So, you know, big ambitious ideas, but not impossible. Just really thinking about how we can all work together and leverage this very large and in some ways decentralized institution to be able to truly leverage its power. So here for questions, sounds like Val's going to lead more of a conversation later, but that's sort of the overview.
So we hope that you learned something about the Office of Civic Engagement that you did not already know today. And we hope that you will connect with us. Our website is before you, same with our social media hashtags. We have a newsletter that shares what the office is up to, what programs we're offering, what special events are coming up. So hopefully you will connect with us. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them, and so is Alyssa. So I hope that in our effort to be a lot more transparent, you definitely learned something today that you didn't already know about the Office of Civic Engagement. Thank you.
After Tanya gives her presentation, then there's room for Q&A, and then we'll go into the discussion because I'm quite sure you heard something that you didn't know before or you had questions about, okay?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya Price. As Val said, I'm the Executive Director of the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, and thank you all for having me today. And I don't have a beautiful presentation prepared like University of Chicago, so I will just talk and explain to you all what I do and what the South Shore Chamber is all about. I see a lot of familiar faces and friends in the room today, so I'm glad to see you all. And glad that you have an interest in South Shore and that you found time to come out today to Val's very impressive meeting. So again, thank you all for being here. As I mentioned, I'm with the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, and we are the lead agency for economic development in the South Shore community. Our goal is to work with the small businesses in the community and help them sustain, and also work with entrepreneurs that are interested in starting businesses in the South Shore community. We are a delegate agency for the City of Chicago, which basically means that we receive training and education and programming from the city, and we bring that information back to the community and educate the small business owners here in the community based upon programs that the city offers. We provide services as a consultant for the Department of Procurement Services. We do MWBE certification. For those of you that are not familiar, that's Minority and Women Business Enterprise. We help you get certified so that you can bid on contracts with the City of Chicago, the State of Illinois, and also Cook County. And we also have a contract with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. So again, we work on educating you on different resources and opportunities that are available through the city, and we bring those back to the community. We also run a program called the SSA, which is offered through the Department of Planning and Development. That is a localized tax district, and the property owners along those districts, Stony Island and 71st Street, pay into a tax levy. Those funds are used to provide enhanced services in the community. Those services are litter abatement, security, snow removal, landscaping, customer attraction. We are the organization that organized the big South Shore Summer Festival every year. We had it last August. Robin Thicke was our headliner. So we do a lot of community engagement initiatives as well, and that is to bring people into the community so our businesses can attract more customers. And there is so much happening in South Shore right now. Many of you may not know, but we have a new grocery store opening at 71st and Jeffrey in the mall. Local market is opening December 9th, and we're very excited about that, and it's absolutely beautiful. It rivals any Mariano's, Whole Foods in the city of Chicago. So please stop by the grand opening on December 9th. We have a new movie theater going to the corner of 71st and Jeffrey by one of our resident developers, Elisa Starks. It's going to be an entertainment center, a movie theater, a bowling alley, and a family-style restaurant. So we're very excited about that, and we are still diligently working on the project at 79th and Stony, the Regal Theater. Many of you may have heard that Kanye West has donated $1 million to that project, and the owner and operator of the Regal Theater is working diligently to identify other sources of funds so that he can reopen that historic theater right here in our community. We feel the Regal Theater could be an entertainment anchor in South Shore. And the Chamber is working to strengthen some of the industries that are non-existent or struggling to re-emerge in South Shore. And entertainment is definitely one of them. Housing, we have housing initiatives on the horizon for the South Shore Chamber and the South Shore community. Also manufacturing and the food industry. In January, we're starting a very exciting program with Greater Chatham Initiative called Food Lab Chicago. This is modeled after a program in Detroit called Food Lab Detroit. And the program in Detroit is very successful, and what we aim to do is attack the acute barriers that limit minorities and restaurant owners of color from reaching the same level of success as our counterparts. So we have a very aggressive educational program designed for mature restaurant owners in the South Shore and Chatham community. And that project is funded by Chicago Community Trust, and we are very excited about that. Davita Davidson runs Food Lab Detroit in Chicago, and she will be traveling back and forth to provide these classes in the cohort for Food Lab Chicago. So again, we're very excited about that program, and we definitely do work with the restaurant owners in the community right now to provide them with access to capital, education, legal advice, and any other resources that we think can help them thrive and grow their business. Very excited about partnering with the City of Chicago. Mayor Lightfoot has just rolled out a new program called Invest Southwest, and the goal is to invest over $750 million over the next 3 years in South and West Side communities. And I'm happy to report that South Shore is one of the pilot communities. So we're very excited. That program will be rolled out in early January, I believe. And they are also revamping the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, which is also a capital fund for small businesses to start their businesses or existing businesses to do some improvements. The goal of that is to enhance the culture along the commercial corridors and also increase the walkability factor in the community. Everyone knows that, you know, when you have a strong, robust commercial corridor, you attract people into your community. We have right now 20,000 residents that have left the South Shore community over the last decade, and we are trying to attract those residents back by bringing in new businesses, even new housing development that's on the horizon in the South Shore community, improving the safety of the community, and all of this work cannot be accomplished without partnerships and support. For example, with the University of Chicago, the other nonprofit agencies in the community, and also the residents and the people that are right here on the ground. I am the chairman of the Economic Development Committee for the Neighborhood Network Alliance, and we are recruiting members to join that committee because we need your support. It takes a village to do this work. It's hard work, and it takes a lot of collaborations and partnerships to get it done. So if you are interested in joining the committee, please contact Val Free or myself. We would love to have you. We also work on a few public policy issues that impact the small businesses in the community. For one, the Vacancy Relief Tax Initiative, the South Shore Chamber, the Lakeview Chamber of Commerce, and the Small Business Advocacy Council. We are considered the architects of an initiative that is growing across the city called the Vacancy Relief Tax Initiative. And basically, to explain that in a nutshell, there are commercial property owners that have vacant storefronts. Those storefronts have been vacant for more than 6 months out of the year. They're eligible for a tax credit, or their taxes are reassessed at a lower value. Those property owners are not diligently working to identify stores and tenants to go into those commercial storefronts. So it keeps our corridors blighted, and they're receiving tax credits. So we have put together a coalition of about 27 organizations, including World Business Chicago, the Cook County Assessor's Office is at the table with us, who else? Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, Department of Buildings. We have elected officials that are at the table. And the goal is to craft language to recommend to our state legislators so that they can amend that law. Now, there are examples where the vacancy relief tax credit is beneficial. If you have a bona fide project that may take a couple years to develop, then you may be eligible for vacancy relief tax credit. But for the property owners that are land banking properties in our community and just not allowing viable, sustainable businesses to open up, those are the property owners that we want to bring to the table and find ways to incentivize them to work with organizations like the Chamber of Commerce so that we can help identify sustainable businesses that provide the services and amenities to residents that live in the community. So again, this work is not easy. It does take a village to get it done, and we would be very grateful to have your support. And even if you are not interested in serving long-term on these committees, just pop in from time to time and share your ideas and your recommendations or whatever level of expertise you feel you can offer to the local community organizations, because we really are fighting for you. We are trying to make this community a sustainable, thriving community that's vibrant for the residents that currently live here. Last but not least, I want to make sure that I invite each and every one of you to the Chamber's 21st anniversary reception, which is December 5th. held right here at the Stony Island Arts Bank building. I hope you guys got your invitations.
We did, thank you.
I'll have flyers in the back. The tickets are only $75, and you get a phenomenal meal with that, live entertainment, cocktails, guest speakers. So we would love to have you all out, and all the proceeds go to develop more robust programming and services through the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Huh.
You forgot to talk about Connects and
Next
Urban Main
weekend?
Street.
Yeah, get on there.
So much.
Get back.
And the Christmas tree last night.
Oh my God, we have so much going on. That's why I'm tired, because I'm working around the clock. But last night we had our Christmas tree lighting at 71st and Stony Island. It was awesome. So if you guys did not get a chance to drive by, please do so. We commissioned Max Samsing to design a ground decoration exclusively for the South Shore community. He's the artist and developer of the holiday boxes that you see at the median at 71st and Stony. And our friend A.B. Vasquez is the construction designer, so he constructed the boxes. We have a 30-foot tree that we lit up last night. We had carolers and hot chocolate and desserts, and the alderman was there, and it was really, really a wonderful presentation. This was the biggest one that I have been a part of. So we hope to continue to grow that event, and next year it'll be bigger and better. We are kicking off the holiday shopping season with Small Business Saturday. We're having a community breakfast, and you guys write this down, please. Community breakfast next Saturday, November 30th at the Quarry Entertainment Center, 2423 East 75th Street. Starts at 9 a.m. Free breakfast for the first 100 people, I think.
Oh, I'll be there.
And after that, it's just a nominal fee, $10 or something like that. But we're trying to create community engagement. We want people to get to know each other and realize that it's important to have that camaraderie and just have that neighborly, warm feeling that you want in your community. And you know, who knows, you might meet a new friend. After that, we're kicking off the 3rd anniversary of Connect South Shore. SSA 42 and the South Shore Chamber has partnered with Eric Williams of the Silver Room. You guys all know Eric. He does a big Hyde Park block party. This is the 3rd arts festival that we're doing in the South Shore community. We are taking vacant storefronts and activating them with art, a film festival that's awesome, a music fest, vendors market. We have a fashion show, and the main venue is 7101 East South Jeffrey, 7101 South Jeffrey. It's in the mall. It's the former Ace Hardware Center. So you can meet there. We're going to have trolleys going through the community back and forth between South Shore and Chatham. We have another partnership with Chatham. We're doing photos on the trolley. So I know that's a lot of information for you guys to remember.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Photos on the trolley, and that'll be next Saturday, Small Business Saturday. And the trolley will go back and forth between the South Shore and Chatham community, and we'll be making stops at all of the Connect South Shore activated storefronts.
Urban Main Street.
Urban Main Street. Wow. We have 2 corridor studies going on in the community right now. The first one is Urban Main Street, which is along 71st Street. That's a corridor study exclusive to 71st Street. And Urban Main is our partner with that and our consultant. We are developing a community transformation program. And that program will focus on design, community collaborations, economic development, and I'm forgetting one. But it's an 18-month study. We have had 1 community meeting already, and we have another one scheduled for the first quarter of 2020. We invite you all out so we can hear from you what it is that you would like to see take place in the community. This study is done for you, by you, and the South Shore Chamber is the community engagement partner to make sure that we get the word out and you all know what's going on and what's being planned for your community. We also have a corridor study going on that's sponsored by RTA and the City of Chicago's Department of Planning and Development. It's a revitalization study for 75th and 79th Street, and it's focused around transportation, housing, and economic development. We have a community meeting December 12th at 6 p.m. at the South Shore High School. So again, please come out because your voices have to be heard. These studies are going on, but we want to make sure that we know what it is that you want to see. And I'll give you a very brief example of what we mean by this. The consultants are not from the community. They're experts, but they don't live in the communities. So they give us recommendations. One of the recommendations was, since we don't have a grocery store, it may be a good idea to work with the local gas stations and convenience stores and have them provide more products. Totally rejected by the community. Like, no, we do not want that. The gas stations have not always been good partners and neighbors in the community. But if we did not have residents at the table, they would not know that. So that's why it's important to come out to these meetings, because it's nothing worse than having someone that does not live in the community, not on the ground, that does not understand the issues that we face, tell us what we need. So we want to have people that live here, that look like us, sitting at the table. So again, December 12th at 6 p.m. at South Shore High School. This is the last community meeting that we will have. This is the last opportunity that the residents will have to make the recommendations before the program is, the plan is rolled out to the public in January. And after January, we will work with DPD and other partners and entities to help us with the implementation stages. Some of them are things that we can do immediately, early stage projects. Some of them are in the near future, and some of them are on a 2 to 5 year plan. So again, we really need you all to come out and stay engaged. And thank you to Val Free for having these wonderful community meetings. Val Free is a community organizer. And nobody can pack a room like Val Free. So again, thank you, Val, for all the hard work that you do. Okay.
Okay. So I'm quite sure you all heard a lot. I hope you wrote down your questions, because how many people in here knew all of that stuff was going on? Let me just, if you just knew half of it was going on, raise your hand. So a few people knew half of it. That's not even half the room, not even a quarter of the room. So I'm quite sure you would have, how many people have questions for the University of Chicago and the Chamber of Commerce? 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. Okay, so if you all can just kind of stand. So who has questions again?
Okay, I'm up?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ann. So I have a couple questions, and mostly for the chamber. And so one of the questions is ghost churches. So I know you're working, and you've been working for a few years now. Was it the state level? You were trying to get a state law passed about getting the tax write-off eliminated for the for-profit businesses. But I'm also seeing just as many ghost churches, and when I say ghost church, it's a church that doesn't have any services on a regular basis. They're not doing any weddings or funerals. They're not providing any social services such as food pantries or homeless shelters or anything. In other words, they're just sitting there, they have a shingle up, and nothing's happening, and it's a tax write-off for somebody. So I'm wondering if your ordinance or whatever what is it exactly you're trying to do now?
We're trying to get the ordinance changed where
the state or city?
State.
Okay.
However, it's my belief that we can get this done on the county level. We want to work with the state legislators just to have a legislative option available. But we believe that the tax assessor can make that change right now. He is at the table with us. We had a meeting last month, and he sent about 3 people from his office. I've had 2 calls this week saying that Fritz Katie mentioned you at a meeting, and I'm like, okay, well, I need to know what these meetings are and what he's talking about, because we have crafted a document with recommendations and language in it that we want to present to him and also the state legislators. If we cannot get it changed at the county level at his office, then we will, I don't want to use the word force, but we are going to make the recommendations to our state legislators. And we have made pretty much all of them aware of what's going on. But those non-existent churches, you're absolutely right.
I wonder if that's included in what
Yes.
you're trying to do. 'Cause
Every vacant property along a commercial corridor is included. And we have collected data to show exactly which properties are receiving this tax credit incentive and for how many years they've received it.
Yeah.
And again, you know, it's very difficult to get them to engage with us. Or you have the Chamber of Commerce calling you saying, I have a potential business owner, and we don't get a return phone call. I don't know what it would take.
Right.
So
Well, they don't.
we have to find a way to incentivize these property owners to transfer the property, work with the chamber so that we can find them a viable business. And then there's also a flip side to that too, because a lot of the properties are overassessed and their property taxes are very high. And it's challenging to identify a business that can afford to pay enough rent to do the debt service on the building, which includes the mortgage and the taxes.
Right.
So we do take that into consideration. There's a lot of property owners that have addressed us and said, what do we do about that? We're working with them to have their property taxes reassessed. And hopefully our new state legislature will use the new formula that has been identified to reassess the properties on the south and west side, or at least assess them at a fair rate.
Would it help to have like a petition through Reclaiming South Shore, the Neighborhood Network, you know, all these social media groups, you could pass a petition to Fritz. Can't pronounce his last name, so I call him Fritz. So, I mean, that might get his attention.
I definitely think that would help, but not yet.
Okay.
We want to play nice first, and we have drafted this document that we're going to present to him, and let's see what his response is to that document. However, we will not stop until there is something done, because again, it's keeping our communities blighted, and a lot of people had no idea that this was taking place. So we want to make sure that we do everything and follow a protocol before we start passing petitions. But, you know, if it comes to that, then, you know, we have no problem doing it. You know, it's just time for it to stop. You know, we cannot afford to have people come in and land bank properties in our community, and they live elsewhere that has thriving, vibrant commercial corridors.
Yep.
That's all.
It's all over the south side and the north side. This is not just exclusive to the south side. That's why we have developed. Yes, that's why we have developed such a broad coalition, because it's happening on the north side too. The only problem on the north side is the rent amounts are above the average market rate. And in most cases, the property owners are waiting for big boxes and franchises and chains to come in.
On that same subject, is there any effort to catalog properties and inform local entrepreneurs and or local developers that are in sync with your strategies, where these properties are, which ones are available? You know, every landowner cannot be recalcitrant. So there should be some that are seeking what you're able to provide. So is the chamber a one-stop shop for would-be property acquirers, property developers, so that they can have some ease of saying, let me show you the best opportunities that exist in South Shore. This is where we're looking for investment. These are the incentives that we could package along to sweeten the deal. Is the chamber serving in that role?
100%, absolutely. I spent an hour and a half yesterday with a potential developer showing him a property on Stony Island. So yes, we do want developers to stop at the Chamber of Commerce first. And here's why. First of all, we know what it is that the community needs. It's not enough for a developer to come into our community because they think they can make money. We want to make sure that the businesses that are coming into the community are needed and will provide the services that the community is asking for. And this is not just what the chamber feels, this is what we have heard from surveys, from community meetings, from meetings like this. So yes, we have an inventory of available property. We have a list of property owners, and we reach out to those that have been dormant for a while to see if they are interested in selling or transferring those properties. And most of the time, we know the properties that are available.
Well, everybody in this room is a potential developer, is a potential investor, is a stakeholder, as evidenced by their time and effort to be here today. Oftentimes, I think our indigenous capacity is looked over and not recognized as we need to be trying to roll our own. So why don't we try to, we're so busy selling to somebody long distance, we've got somebody sitting right next to us, and we're not informing them of, I've got a list of 12 properties, here are the various levels. If somebody just came in and did one business in one of those, that's a success story beyond the notion of a big box.
Absolutely. It is an excellent point. And, the chamber is a membership-based organization, so I have to be honest, we reach out to our members first to provide them with those opportunities. So membership has its privileges. And legally, I cannot just roll out a list of vacant properties with information that I am privy to in terms of the seller wanting to transfer that property, and I can't make that public. But if a developer comes to me and lets me know that he has a viable plan or project in mind, I can work with him to help him identify a space in South Shore.
Any other questions? Not on that one.
I have a question about, you mentioned something about manufacturing. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, there is an entire corridor, South Chicago, that is filled with vacant warehouses and manufacturing plants that once provided jobs, and they have been sitting dormant for years. So our goal, and this is a little bit down the line, is to strengthen the manufacturing industry in the South Shore community. We are starting with one of our community residents, and many of you may be familiar with him, Norman Teague. He's an artist and a designer, and he also teaches industrial design at UIC. He is seeking a location to do a manufacturing plant for furniture. So we're working with him because that would be something very unique to the community that would also provide jobs, and it's kind of low-hanging fruit for us because we have this individual right here in the community. We are working to develop a more long-term comprehensive plan to strengthen the manufacturing industry in South Shore, and we will be reaching out to the university to help us with that as well.
Hi, my name is Vicki Wooten. I'm a product of South Shore. Graduated from the elementary school. I was an at-risk student in the high school, but I did manage to graduate. And the reason I wanted to talk, when I left high school, I entered a CETA-funded program downtown where they taught us office skills. And most of us graduated and got really decent jobs downtown. And so now I'm a Chicago Public Schools career teacher, and there's a big story in between high school and becoming a teacher. I became a teacher about 15 years ago. So now I'm in the schools, and we have a lot of focus towards college, but there's a lot of kids who they don't have maybe the support system to just leave high school and make it through college. We've really been pushing for college right after high school. What I see is a lot of students, because they don't have that support, they're lucky if they make it 1 year. So my emphasis is on more of a pipeline between high school and directly leave high school on Friday and enter a job on Monday, developing a pipeline. 'Cause what happened with me, once I got into the corporate world, I had the incentive to continue to go to school. So I would like to see more of a push in that area. And I worked with Alderman Harris on the programs in the New South Shore. And one of the things we put in there was a technology program, Cisco. And students would have been able to graduate and go and start $40,000 a year jobs. And that program was taken out. So there really needs to be more of an emphasis on pipeline things. So I'm really passionate. I've developed a thing called the Downtown Project. And I'm looking for some type of partnerships with, so I can work either within the school system, outside of the school system, so we can develop more of these pipelines. What we're seeing with kids when they graduate, if we don't grab them by the hand and put them on some type of path, we see what happens. I had a young man, and I won't let myself forget. He was a very respectful young man. They graduated from the old South Shore where I started out teaching. He's out. He went through prom, graduation. He's out the streets. Somebody puts a gun in his hand. He catches a case. And I know that if we had him in a program, that wouldn't happen. And that's happening all over. So I really, I began to develop the language around this issue. And I mean, we all see it. It's just something we just got to do. So I would like to work with people in the community to develop this really kind of more within CPS before they even get out of high school. But I'm open to maybe even outside programs.
So a couple of things, because we're thinking in similar direction, that, it's not everybody's on the same track. One is that we've had a history of defaulting to requiring a BA for jobs that shouldn't necessarily need that, that especially where experience can count. And so one of the initiatives that we're doing now is reevaluating that and trying to identify more jobs that shouldn't require a BA, and letting that not be a barrier to getting employment at the university. Another thing is having a much more clearly defined internship program, where we can have students or people who are opportunity youth and are not engaged in school right now come in and get internships both at the university and with our corporate partners. So to your point, downtown or wherever else, just like our students do. So very much thinking in that same vein that that jobs are really important. And I do want to call out our colleague Shaz Razul is here as well. He runs the schools programs that Wendy mentioned, and also gives a lot of thought to these connections and this work.
Okay, this is great. So I just wanted to find out a little bit more about the housing development you mentioned. Where's it going to be, and who's doing it?
That we're in the early stages of that. We're just talking about it based upon recommendations by RTA in the city of Chicago. We are considering some infill development for vacant lots along 75th Street and 79th Street. But this is, again, early stages. The South Shore Chamber has just formed a community development corporation. So these are some of the initiatives that we will be taking on in the very near future.
So it's a two-part question. I am curious if you can either tell us or if there's a resource online. I'm curious, what are the boundaries of the South Shore Chamber and now I guess the CDC's service area?
From 67th to 79th Street on the south and from Kimbark to the lake.
Okay. So I know Wendy kind of knows some of my background. But a lot of people don't know what my background is. Actually, I come from a family of licensed architects. And so all my life, I have always had this real estate development desire. So I've actually partnered up with a woman who led the only artist lived work owned development that exists in the city, but it's on the northwest side. My desire and interest is to create development like that, at least on the south side. So we're in pre-development, and I would love to have conversation and see what support is. As you all know, pre-development is kind of the hardest part, funding-wise and planning-wise, but from the place of people first. So since a lot of that work has been done already, we don't want to duplicate what's already been done, but being from the community myself and understanding the importance of speaking and understanding the needs of the community before allowing a developer to come in and say what we need, that we speak to ourselves and speak to our own needs. So I'm kudos to you all for doing that. There's a lot more of it that needs to be done. I'm curious, because I know South Shore kind of is right at that boundary. There's a property we're looking at on 75th, but it's technically Greater Grand Crossing. And how, if they, you know, in your partnerships, if they're like, obviously with UFC, that's more of an interest, but the South Shore ever kind of.
What's the address? Or is that something you want to tell me?
Yeah.
In private? Okay. We can talk about it.
I don't think Greater Grand Crossing has a chamber, right?
No. I think that's not.
I am most encouraged to hear someone wanting to do some development in South Shore. I didn't turn around. Who's that then? Okay. I already know it. Okay. All right. We have some of the best housing stock in the city here in South Shore. And I always have that developer mentality that, look, what could this be? When I pulled up, I don't know, there's a Six Flags right behind this building. It's boarded up. And I'm saying, wow, what an opportunity. So it doesn't, you know, the skills to do it, the money to do it. I have a strong belief that if God is giving you the vision, He will give you the provision. And we certainly have enough skill and talent in this room that whatever it is that we want this community to be, just do it. So I offer my expertise. I've been a real estate developer, kind of like a guru in real estate. I would be very glad to help anyone that wants to understand and know that process. In fact, I would welcome it.
What's your name?
My name is Brenda Sharif.
Hi, I'm Chaka. I am a producer, and I also work in creative workforce development. I think it was Vicki you were talking about connecting young people to role-playing. Yeah, so I also used to work in the alternative school system, particularly for those youth. Those are young people that already have had challenges with CPS and with, you know, traditional tracks to education. They're also quite a deal older. They're 16 to 21. So they come in already thinking about what their job prospects are once they leave school. So one of the things that I would love to work with somebody on is, in addition to like those job partnership programs, just those soft skills. I think like, you know, when you don't have that first job somewhere, when you're 15 to 16, like I did, they're just kind of soft skills and things related to professionalism and conduct, goal setting, self-management, emotional management, things that I notice young people now aren't working on until much later, if at all. So they end up in a lot of work situations, and business owners are trying to run a business. They're not really in a position to be developmental and really kind of address a lot of those issues that start really, really early. So I work with young people. I do career coaching. I help them map out their goals, and I also see an opportunity for young people that want to work in media. They're already extremely media savvy. They already have full filmmaking suites on their phones. They got cameras, they have editors, you know, they have like apps, and they can do a lot of things with those. And another thing that I noticed with businesses in our neighborhood is oftentimes their digital marketing could use some guidance. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to combine all those things. I also do digital marketing for small businesses and nonprofits. So if you are ever interested in having somebody look at your digital marketing, or you ever want to bring in a young person to kind of give you that perspective on your reach and your brand, again, my name is Chaka, and I'll be here afterwards. But I'm really encouraged by this conversation.
Well, I see people.
Okay. Way in the back of the doorway.
Okay.
Alright, first of all, I want to thank every single person here for contributing to what I consider the rebirth of South Shore. For the residents who've been here for a while, the 71st and Jeffrey mural in the back of Walgreens Does anyone remember? Anyone remember, show of hands?
I was the assistant on that.
Oh, hello. Banu. It's basically the phoenix that rises, and that's where we're at. And I've been waiting for a long time for this moment. So thank you for being here, all of you, in whatever capacity that you're able to contribute, whatever that may be. And then the second thing, there's, as you said, a wealth of information that's been given. And although I was writing diligently, is there a resource? Do you have all this on your website or one-stop shop where you can just see everything?
Yeah, so I'll get into how you can sign up for the committees and the networks in a moment. Elliot, you had a question?
Yeah, just one kind of question for everybody. I mean, it's interesting to build up the phoenix imagery of like South Shore like rising and being pushed for like serious economic development. I'm particularly interested in the question of sort of like how the development here in South Shore, how you all view it fitting into a larger pattern of sort of affordability in the city. And specifically, I'm thinking about housing, but I think that also sort of like storefronts is a part of this. But so like, you know, for instance, for University of Chicago, in your real estate arms, do you guys have concrete numbers or goals about sort of affordability requirements or average annual median income, AMI requirements? And then for the South Shore Chamber of Commerce, as you all are thinking about sort of housing developments that are coming in, are those questions about percentage of affordable housing and mix of affordable housing, number of units, you know, so that's 3, you know, that can support a family. Are those part of the conversations that are happening, or is it still, because my worry is, and this is from an outsider's perspective, I live in a little village, so it's the conversation there is a little bit different, but the worry is that in the effort to try and bring in, especially sort of housing developments, or to get people to, you know, develop housing, some of maybe the patterns of housing you see starting to come south of 61st Street, and also in light of sort of some of the major developments that are coming off of on the lake right now, that there may be sort of questions about displacement that are coming up in the future, and whether or not we can think about those and maybe kind of proactively address some of those as this Phoenix is re-emerging.
So, from the university's perspective, so we're not building housing in the neighborhood, so to be clear. So we don't have that very specific question of like, what's the AMI of a development that we're doing, because we're not doing that kind of development. However, I understand that our development overall can have an impact on what else is happening in the neighborhood, what gets built next door to it. And so that is part of what we're looking at with these development guidelines that I mentioned is, okay, so what's the likely impact of this development? What is the community looking for? Could it have a displacement effect? Could it have a positive economic development impact? So that is something that we're being thoughtful about.
Does that include sort of CBA stuff, or is that outside of CBA? So
we are not, I'll quote my boss Derek, who likes to say that we will talk about everything above the line of a CBA, and at this point are not talking about doing an actual agreement, in part because there are so many different interests around what that might look like. However, we are very conscious of the asks of folks who are in the CBA advocate movement, and a lot of that is real. Fear of displacement is real, displacement is real, and so thinking about how we can be more thoughtful about our development and our investment in that vein.
And in our community development working group conversations, we had CBA activists that were part of the conversation, so we are definitely listening and working together with them. So.
Sort of a reaction to that comment. I'm both a 22-year resident of South Shore as well as a real estate developer who built 41 houses in Park Manor community dating back to the late 90s. Okay, so economic diversity is absolutely necessary in South Shore. Quite frankly, I want to see more higher price homes. I want to see an increase in economic availability that can support that commercial corridor that Tanya talked about on 71st Street. We need to drive an increase in income for South Shore to be vibrant. South Shore has more than its share of affordable housing. Not to say more is not encouraged, but it has more of its share. What's necessary to make South Shore healthy, long-term, is more economic diversity. Ideally, the people who should be part of that should look like me. Not to say that others should be excluded, but we need to see an increase in the number of people that have been around South Shore a long time. I've lived in South Shore. My neighbors have suffered consequently as a consequence of the recession. We want to see the value of our property increase. We also recognize that the taxes that increase, we're okay with that. And so it's this, you know, the difference in thinking, right, between that mindset and others. Not to say they can't be married together or bridge together, but I think for me and my family, we would represent a position of we need to see an increase in economic diversity.
Yeah, Lennox, I agree with you 100% on that. However, we do want development without displacement. We definitely want to make sure that the residents that are here stay. We have a culture in this community, and the culture has a right to stay regardless of whatever else happens. You know, like you said, many people in this room have lived in this community for decades. We only have a 23% home ownership rate in the South Shore community. So we definitely want to increase that home ownership rate over time. We want to build new homes, market rate homes that are not, demonstrate the lifestyles of people these days. A lot of our homes are beautiful, but they're functionally obsolete. So there is a need and a demand for more modern new housing in the South Shore community as well. The RTA study that's taking place does take into account the median income ranges in the community. They are making recommendations on building affordable housing and market rate housing. So we will have more information we can share with the community in January of 2020.
Okay. One more question?
Just to that, this is more of a comment to both of your comments. I just want to also encourage that in looking at, because I was going to say the same thing, part of what assists with displacement is people having ownership. Ownership is key. But also in having a diversity of ownership, you've got to have a diversity of affordability. So like with our development, our very clear intention is actually to have it be cooperative. And there are already some successful ones in South Shore, and I just want to encourage people to also be thinking about that being part of the housing mix that is part of this larger economic development strategy and plan and housing.
So, first of all, thanks for the Q&A, but as we're walking through this process, can someone tell me how do they feel about this conversation? What they heard, how do they see themselves participating in the economic development networks? How do you see South Shore if you did or did not participate? Kind of give me some of that feedback, because as we close this out, our goal is to make sure that your voices are at the table in one way or another. It might be you're donating to the cause. It might be you're participating in the meetings. It might be you're bringing resources from the places that you work or connections that you have. It might be any of those things. It doesn't necessarily have one lane, but at the end of the day, how do we pool our resources together and resolve the issues together as one community? Oh. Okay.
I am so proud to be a part of this community. I've been over here since I was like 5, and it's just a spirit that just never dies. We are always engaged. You know, there's really a documentary that needs to be told about South Shore. I mean, we've done things that reached the White House. When they tried to close our bank, we said no. When they tried to take our country club, we said no. And I've been at some of these meetings throughout the year, so I'm so proud. I'm proud of you, Val. That's the first thing. I see myself, I would like to be a bridge with young people in terms of economic development. We got to get young. We got to bridge what's going on in high school to what you guys are talking about. We need to get the next generation ready. They need to be there. We need to be pushing. When I see an empty building on one of these thoroughfares, I see a young person who could we could be developing them for entrepreneurship. So they need to be at the meetings with the commerce. You know, we need to try to help them get in organizations or universities like the University of Chicago. that's where I see myself.
Okay. Brian?
One of the things that, when you think of community, I think of an organism, and right now, it is the young people, our millennials, that are not necessarily coming in to buy homes, where they're approaching 30, which is that age when other groups are buying homes. And millennials have not fallen or have not followed the pattern. And that is because of debt. There are things that are, student loans and things like that, where they cannot afford it. There are some programs out here that can help do that. As a matter of fact, there is a program out right now, Fund My Home, that will literally take 75% of student debt and forgive it.
That's good information.
And there are grants up to $48,000 that will be given to do a down payment on a home, as well as contribute to the closing cost. So these are things, what we don't know about, we cannot bring about.
Exactly. So that's why it's called pooling your resources together. And my question was, how did you feel about everything that you heard?
And there's one elephant in the room that has not been addressed.
What is that?
And that is crime.
Right.
Crime. And until we can address that, and I tell everyone, when I go through South Shore, anybody who knows where I live knows my house is lit up like downtown. Not in a this is a prison yard kind of thing, but warm, friendly lighting. And I look at my neighbors, they are shut down, it's dark, it's just a place where crime can happen.
Okay.
So I think we should, at night, turn on your light.
Okay, at night, turn on your light.
Yeah.
Just in terms of crime and public safety, I know a lot of you all know over the summer, every Tuesday, we did a walk, talk, and stroll.
Yes.
We ended it as the weather started changing and night started, we ended. However, we are going to be reconvening the group of residents who came out to talk about how do we build on that. So if anyone feels like public safety is a part of the problem, please make sure you reach out to us on being a part of that conversation. Anyone?
Yes, I'm very encouraged by by the way, I'm again Al Walker. Didn't really introduce myself, but I am a 23-year retired veteran of the U.S. Army Logistics and Transportation Specialty, where my major job recognition. But I'm really encouraged by the tenor of the conversations that I'm hearing coming to these meetings. This is my second one so far. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the ones on Tuesdays because that's when I do the Shy Hack Night. But I really would like to see more collaborative efforts built up from these conversations. Because for me, conversation has to become collaboration, which then becomes, interaction and, some type of a tangible result coming from those interactions.
Okay.
So that's what I feel encouraged about.
Okay.
Val, I just wanted to see if we can just wrap it up, and also if we can get information regarding the committees that Tanya was talking about, speaking of, and some of the committees that, of course, you're part of.
I want to piggyback on what the brother said in terms of how do we convert conversation into action. And I think our community suffers from lack of access to information in a convenient, timely, and regular basis that people can use to take action on. So the very project that he's working on with Shy Hack Night, which the point is we have to look at new ways of using new platforms to elevate the dialogue. So if somebody feels like checking in on this conversation we had today at 3 a.m. in the morning, they can feel just like they were in the room with us, and they're able to communicate, engage, access the documents. So I want to thank the University of Chicago for, first of all, recognizing that paper is still valuable. and putting content on paper with contact information and follow-up websites and email addresses tells me that there's a level of transparency. When I go to a meeting, I usually take a piece of paper with me so that if anybody wants to get in touch with me or know anything about who I am or what I do, I want to have a leave behind that also has a trail of ways people can have engagement. So I think we've heard a number of times today that people desire to be engaged, otherwise they would not be somewhere on a Saturday afternoon, that they don't have to be. And they want to know that they have options, because for everyone in this room, there's another 100 that they're connected to that are going to ask them, what happened at that meeting you went to, and why should I care?
Exactly. So, go ahead.
So, thank you very much for that compliment. We have our own sign-in sheet in addition to Val's. So if you would like to sign up on our sign-up sheet, that would be great, so that we will have your contact information so that we can make sure that we push our information to you directly. And also, in the spirit of transparency, the Office of Civic Engagement is happy to come and do this presentation to any of the organizations that you're with. So if you want to reach out to me and let me know, hey, I'm in this group and I know that nobody in my group knows anything about the Office of Civic Engagement, give me a call. We'd be more than happy to come out, because the goal is for people to really take advantage of all of the great opportunities we have for our young people.
So, with that being said, did anyone get, we have a brochure that you should have gotten at the front desk. You see, it looks like this. You got it. This. Does everyone have this?
No.
No. Okay, can we get this passed out to everyone? If you go on our website, there's a link, there's a tablet that says Join a Network. When you go on there, you join economic development, and if you decide public safety is the thing that you feel is a way to address economic development, put that in there as well. When you do that, that information will go to the board, to the Chamber of Commerce, and as well as us. Okay? The NNA. We are called the NNA, or the Neighborhood Network Alliance. Also, we have a Facebook page, the Neighborhood Network Alliance. You can like that or join the group if you're a part of a traditional block club, a homeowners association, a tenant association, a condo association, a co-op, or any clubs or groups of people. We consider those block clubs. Okay? As I would like to say, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.